Hello, I'm Pooja Chaturvedi and you're all listening to Lounge Podcast. Today we are talking about two plays that bring history back into the confines of an auditorium but with a twist. Our first play is Ghalib in New Delhi, which shows how Ghalib, reborn in New Delhi, faces an identity crisis, can't acquire his own Haveli, dons jeans and t-shirts and loves the Delhi metro. We'll be talking to the play's director Saeed Alam, who says Ghalib was a hypocrite. After that, we have Sukhmani Kohli, director of the play Romeo and Juliet and Seven Clowns. And no, it is not a mix of Romeo and Juliet and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But first, let's talk to Saeed about his play. Hi Saeed, welcome to the Lounge Podcast.
Okay.
Alright, for starters, could you tell our listeners about what the play Ghalib in New Delhi represents?
Ghalib in New Delhi is all about bringing Ghalib back to New Delhi. So, looking at New Delhi from the angle of a person who lived in the 19th century Delhi. So, looking Delhi from the viewpoint of a person who used to live in Delhi. So, that is a sort of satire, or you can say a dig at the darker side of the modernization. Our hypothesis is, in case if he is given the choice to take rebirth, the only city he will opt for would be Delhi. But to his amazement and to an extent to his disappointment, New Delhi that he would come across would not be what he thought Delhi to be.
Alright, so how different is New Delhi from Delhi in your play? What are the differences?
The difference is one, the major difference. New Delhi has turned into a democracy, which was not the form of government or which was not something that Ghalib was familiar with. So he finds democracy quite strange. And he finds that all these scams which take place are the result of the political system that India has adopted after the Britishers left the country. So he finds the whole concept of democracy very strange and finds that the political system of his time was comparatively much better. When he comes to Delhi, his Haveli is not given to him because he is not carrying any government-issued identity card, whether PAN card or driving license or even Aadhaar card. So he is not allowed by the government to reclaim his Haveli. Therefore, he has to live with a Delhi University student in a servant quarter. The Delhi University student has come from Bihar, while the landlady of that servant quarter is a Punjaban. So it's an interesting interaction of three languages or three dialects. Urdu as spoken by Ghalib, Delhi wali Punjabi as spoken by that Punjabi landlady, and Bihar's Hindi.
Okay, and so how does he cope with these more of English, and of course there's not much Urdu in the daily conversation?
He does, because Ghalib had this skill in him to adapt himself to the changes, because even in his lifetime Delhi underwent many changes, right? So he had this ability to adapt himself to fast-paced changes even in his lifetime. This is what he does in New Delhi also. See, he thinks that he was going to be popular only when his Urdu poetry is to be translated into two languages at least. One English, the other one Punjabi. Two, if somebody writes a novel on his life and times in English. Three, if he takes up a sport like golf. Four, if he changes his attire and starts wearing Bermudas and t-shirt. This is what he does to adapt himself to New Delhi. And this is how he again becomes very popular and goes on to become the page 3 celebrity. But at the end of it, he introspects that whatever he has done at the cost of his originality.
Do you in any ways oppose this modernization through?
He does. At the end of it, he gives the message that the system will not adapt to your liking. In fact, you will have to adapt to the system.
So does Ghalib like the metro, Delhi metro?
Oh yes, he does.
Alright. So when we talk about Ghalib, there's so much written on him and even films that have been made. So how did you select what aspects of his life to show in your play, and more importantly, how to present history in the factually right way?
He was a very fascinating personality. To an extent, he was a split personality.
Really? How?
What he writes conforms to the general standards of morality, and what he did in his lifetime does not. As far as his personal life is concerned, as far as his day-to-day life is concerned, he was an ordinary man. For example, he was very close to Bahadur Shah Zafar, but the moment Bahadur Shah Zafar was dethroned, he disassociated himself from Bahadur Shah Zafar. He was the one who criticized the first freedom movement to win the sympathy of Britishers. And this was despite the fact that Britishers had killed his innocent brothers. So again, he comes across as a big hypocrite, which does not at all reflect in his poetry.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Bye. And now let's move on to Sukhmani, who will tell us more about her play Romeo and Juliet and Seven Clowns. Hi Sukhmani, welcome to the Lounge podcast.
Hi.
All right. So we've heard of Romeo and Juliet, but where do the clowns come in?
The clowns kind of force their way into Romeo and Juliet's story. But they come from a workshop that I did in Chandigarh with a theatre group last year. And it's about love, it's about what the theatre group, it's about their personal experiences in theatre group and as clowns, how they see it. So it's an adapted version. There's not much of Shakespeare left in it though, but a lot of clown.
All right, and your show is also a clown's perspective of the Romeo and Juliet story. How exactly does he see it, and does it change our understanding of the famous story?
No, but I think it just kind of opens to interpretation in the end, but it's a clown's perspective. It's basically how really Shakespeare saw it, but in a very, they make it even more lovable and interesting, and there's a lot of Sufi, so I think we've just contextualized it a lot. But basic story that, how the conflict between the families that Romeo and Juliet came from, how that was really silly, and the clowns really make it, you can see how silly it is and how redundant it is. And also in the end about how, just about pure love that all of us are kind of trying to get, and the clowns are just kind of bringing that out in the story, I think.
All right, and one interesting thing you've mentioned, this embedding Sufi poetry in your play. Why did you decide on that?
And I was sitting and listening to some live Sufi music once, and Bulle Shah's poetry, and it just clicked, and there were just so many overlaps with Sufism and clown when it comes to unconditional love and letting yourself go and shedding identities. It's exactly what Bulle Shah, Tere Ishq Nachaya Karke Thaiya is just about letting go and just dancing and, and loving your guru and your murshid unconditionally. So there were just so many overlaps, and our hearts really connected to it, so we just kind of put it in.
All right. All the best for your show and also your future plans. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
You can catch the play Ghalib in New Delhi on 18th May at the Sri Ram Center for Art and Culture at 7:30 p.m. And if you're looking for some clowning, there's Romeo, Juliet and Seven Clowns at the India International Center on 29th May at 6:30 p.m. For more information, you can check out the auditorium's respective websites. If you happen to see the plays, share your reviews with us at feedback@livemint.com. Have a great weekend.